The cathode ray tube, vital and largest component of a TV set, which magically translates electrical impulses into a living picture. Known for 12 years throughout England and America, but still a mystery to Australians. It's 1948, the year in which Lowell Thomas first described the Australian scene in overseas television newsreels.
Scenes at the seashore give us a clue to the kind of country Australia is. A paradise for water sport, here where the waves of the immense Southern Ocean sweep upon the Australian beaches. Waves from the world's greatest width of ocean.
Thank you, Lowell Thomas. As we look at this modern development in operation, the question of television's prospects in Australia comes to mind. Sir Ernest Fiske's opinion is,
it will revolutionize our home life. And when we have it established in Australia, it will also lift the Australian radio manufacturing industry to greater heights. The determination as to when it will start is in the hands of the Australian federal government. And I know that the prominent ministers of that government are keenly interested in it. So we may hope to see it in the near future.
The first Olympic Games ever televised, and Australia, one of the 4 countries which has never missed a modern Olympiad, was in London in 1948, watched by King George VI and Princess Marina. Only 2 gold medals came our way. West Australia's John Winter cleared 6 feet 6 inches in the mud to be the first, other than an American, to win the high jump. While Mervyn Wood, a 32-year-old veteran, took the single sculls by an all-time record-winning margin of 12.5 lengths. Merv Wood, 8 times Australian champion, 4 times Olympian. At the MCC dinner in London, closing the Australian 11's triumphant unbeaten tour, Captain Don Bradman announced his retirement and received from Lord Gowrie, former Governor-General of Australia, a magnificent silver bowl.
I think there comes a time in every man's life, irrespective of whether he may still be good enough to carry on or not, that he should make way for a younger man. I feel that in my own case, and I think I'm probably the best judge of the many little creaks and groans that go on in my joints throughout the day, especially when we're out in the field, and I'm quite sure I shall have no regrets at all in having to sit in the pavilion and watch the other fellows. However, I do trust that in some other capacity I may be able to serve this wonderful game for many years to come.
A few months later, a testimonial match was staged at the Melbourne Cricket Ground for the Don. Over 65,000 rocked the stands with their cheers as he walked out to bat. His first scoring stroke was a typical square drive. The master at work, a robot run-getter. But even Don Bradman made mistakes. A mistimed hook from Ian Johnson, but Colin McCool spilt the catch. They ran 3, and Don had notched his 117th century. A fitting finale to the greatest run-getting era in cricket, and master cricketer Don Bradman. Another destined to reach the highest peaks of the game was Ray Lindwall, who thrilled the fans and frightened the batsmen with his speed, swing, and superb control. But this long, loping, rhythmic approach to the crease was under close scrutiny. Lindwall and many other international trundlers were suspect. It was claimed that they dragged over the bowling crease and thereby gained an unfair advantage. And so a new rule was introduced. Part of one foot had to be behind the crease at the moment of delivery. Fierce arguments developed until the camera came up with this evidence. There's no doubt that Ray's back foot is well over the crease, and the ball has not yet left his hand. Yes, this was a clear-cut no ball. Sydney Cup Day at Randwick Racecourse, and the stage was set for one of the most exciting finishes for many a year. It was a terrific battle as they thundered down the straight, with any one a winning chance. But it's columnist and Dark Man who come away from the field stride for stride in an epic finish. Dark Man and columnist locked together in a finish that only the camera can decide. Surely it must have been a dead heat. But no, Dark Man. by a lip. One of the closest decisions ever recorded, and another victory for leading reinsman Jack Thompson. Hunters at Flemington Racecourse on Derby Day started off on the wrong foot, a wet one. For steady rain not only called for a late reassessment of chances, but also washed out what is usually a brilliant fashion parade for Milady. But the weather was kind for the Melbourne Cup, and the famous 2-miler was run in perfect conditions. As the field of 30 came down the straight, Comic Court on the rails was overtaken by Rimfire, with Robert Bruce, Saxony, and the favourite Howe well placed. But watch Dark Man, number 3, again with Jack Thompson aboard. Under the whip, he pegs back Rimfire inch by inch, right to the post. But the camera showed that Dark Man, winner by a lip in Sydney, had gone down this time by a nose to Rimfire, 66-1 outsider, ridden by Ray Neville. Coogee Beach was the scene of the first marathon surfboat race, 3 times around Wedding Cake Island, a 3-mile trip to test the toughest. As you can see, it was not all plain sailing. Around the island, and don't spare the seahorses. Local knowledge of the conditions counted this time with the Coogee boat, winner of the first surfboat marathon. From the same beach, a 60-foot whale, trying to save her 20-foot calf from an attack by killer sharks. For several days, the couple had wandered leisurely close inshore between Manly and Maroubra. But this was no pleasure cruise. It was a fight for life as they thrashed the water and eventually the sharks. On the beach, the scene was much more attractive. Here's a young fella having his own whale of a time. And who wouldn't enjoy a dog's life like this? This surfy terrier was a regular visitor to the bogey hole at Bondi Beach. Showing no fear and plenty of skill, he cracked the rock pool boomers. On the South Australian coastline, it was a different story. An 85-mile-an-hour hurricane whipped up the waves to giant ferocity, tearing away portions of the Glenelg Pier to transform the aquarium into an island on stilts. HMAS survey ship Baku, blown onto the beach, presented the Navy with their biggest salvage problem of 1948. Fulfilling an agreement to provide part of the British Commonwealth Occupation Force, another shipload of diggers embarks once more for Japan. All willing except this chap, but to no avail. Just as upset about leaving Australia were these Malayan seamen who had come here during the war. Many had married, but the law classified them as illegal immigrants, and back they had to go, with their wives and children to follow later. Also leaving the country was a band of Australian-born Yugoslavs, but they were leaving of their own free will on a visit to their homeland.
Giving these 3 months of our time voluntary. We're not getting paid for it at all because in a sort of way we feel indebted to the country of our birth.
At Parliament House, Queensland, the Labour government passed an emergency act prohibiting the carrying of offensive banners in industrial disputes. Despite the law, banners appeared en masse, carried by professional demonstrators. Some unionists were obliged to picket to receive strike pay. As demonstrators defy the law, police take action. Summoned to court was Watersider's secretary, Conrad Englert, in shorts. The offenders are represented by Communist barrister Max Julius at right. Queensland Communist MLA Patterson is prominent in the demonstrations. Police again arrest Englert in a campaign against the laws of the state. From all parts of Australia and from overseas came a steady flow of cancer victims, young and old, converging on the home of 78 years old Masseur John Braun, convinced that in his primitive wash-stand surgery, with knife and fork instruments and some secret potions, he could cure them of the dread disease.
I think I'm a very fortunate man that God has given such a gift to me, and I'm able to hand this gift down to posterity. And it's one of the most joyful days of my life when I'll find this fully accomplished.
Stories of miracle cures, together with Braun's persistent claims and growing queues at his home, led to an official investigation by a special committee headed by the Director General of Public Health, Dr. Morris. And Braun's claims were discounted. Unlike Braun, Dr. Morris, as you can see, did not like publicity. But for the first time, publicity was given to the race for supremacy in rocketry and guided missiles. The British and Australian governments joined forces. The great outback of this continent provided an ideal testing site. First inspection tour. Even at this early stage, it was a top-secret project, and strict security measures were adopted. Blinds were drawn as the aircraft passed over certain sections of the range. Later, however, the blackout was lifted, and the party got a close look at the huge undertaking, which was to cost over £30 million in the first few years. The massive earth-moving equipment transformed the rugged Gibber country under the eyes of service and civil engineers. A 1,200-mile-long strip of arid wasteland in the dead heart of Australia, which was to become one of the largest and most important missile testing grounds in the world. Exploration in Australia had so far failed in finding commercial quantities of oil. So oil company geologist Peter de Vertij chose the wilds of New Guinea for a painstaking search for rock specimens which might indicate the presence of the black gold. Promising evidence was discovered in fossilized specimens which were sent back to Port Moresby for laboratory tests by paleontologists, scientists who plot their way through the ages by studying fossils in rock stratas. The treacherous waters of the Vailala River became a busy highway, and powered craft ran a 75-mile shuttle service to the Cariaba field. Even float planes were used for quick trips by executives, and landing them called for high skill, especially on fast-running jungle waterways. This time he made it, but only just. The team had come to inspect the 136-foot-high derrick where the drill at this stage had twisted down more than 12,000 feet. In the wilderness of New Guinea, black and white dream of the day there'll be a gusher. In Brisbane, crowds lined the streets for the state funeral procession of the American unknown soldier. State Governor Sir John Laverack placed the first wreath upon the flag-draped coffin. It was a solemn city, as Australians paid homage to the symbol of American sacrifice. A gesture of gratitude as the nameless warrior set off on his homeward journey. 25,000 Roman Catholic schoolchildren crammed the Sydney showground to welcome the renowned American church dignitary Cardinal Spellman on his way to the diocesan centenary celebrations in Melbourne. Colourful orator Bishop Fulton Sheen was a member of the party welcomed by Australia's Cardinal Gilroy. No more colourful display has been staged on the famous arena. A few weeks later, the cricket ground was taken over by schoolchildren, this time of all creeds, 12,000 of them presenting the highlight of the centenary of Education Week. A grand tableau in green and gold, traditional colours of Australia in every sporting sphere. At Beverley Park Golf Links, leading professional Billy McWilliams on the right applied the Get 'em Young and Teach 'em principle to stage the first New South Wales Schoolboys Championship. It was limited to boys under 16. The first tourney was a great success. Unexpected talent was unearthed. Young Johnny Moran chipped in on the 18th for an 80 off the stick. 3 years later, Bruce Crampton won this same event. Now, each year, boys come from all over Australia to Beverley Park to vie for the National Schoolboys Crown. A golfing nursery started in 1948. At Sackville Beach on the Hawkesbury River, members of the newly formed Albatross Water Ski Club showed their form. Gelignite Jack Murray took time off from car racing to teach new members the tricks of the new water sport. Thrills and spills as they skim along at 40 miles an hour. Here's a pert pupil on skis. All ashore that's going ashore. It's as easy as that. The biggest crowd at an athletic meeting since the 1938 Empire Games saw Jamaican Herb McKinley versus John Treloar in the 100 meters. The up-and-coming young Australian proved his class with a clear-cut victory over the dusky visitor, at that time world record holder for the quarter mile. John Treloar, later at the Helsinki Olympics, became the first Australian to reach the semi-final of the 100-meter sprint. And now we turn to the water to see amazing young Victorian John Marshall, who astounded the swimming world with his speed and stamina. The personification of perpetual propulsion, he rewrote the world freestyle record book from 200 meters to 1 mile, reaching his peak while at Yale University. Surely the greatest Australian swimmer never to win an Olympic gold medal. And then to Sydney Town Hall flocked jazz fans to be in the swim, but to a different beat. It was the start of the Battle of the Bands, a blaring, boisterous night, and the prevailing hot topic, bebop, swing or Dixieland. And the winners by popular vote, the Port Jackson Jazz Band. Way back in the early 30s, milk bars first appeared in Australia, with American drugstore drink dispensers imported to demonstrate their jug juggling. But in 1948, this local lass developed her own style recipe. First, you take a glass, then a yard of milk, and stretch it to the limit. It's so easy. You can't miss. Can you miss? Introducing Jimmy Eastman of Glebe, Sydney, 4 months old. Not as much a sucker as you think. Still in the dummy and diaper stage, but already eager to get up in the world. Not a nerve in his bonny body. Just shows you what a balanced diet can do. Could an unbalanced diet cause this fine featherless friend to shake with laughter? Or is it just the cold shivers? Cocky Sinclair, age unknown, must be protected against the rigors of winter. It may be plain, but it's a pearl. Careful now. Ah, that's better. Pierre Balmain? No, Cocky's choice. It's a gala occasion. And here's one right out of the hat, a rabbit who thrives on a diet of newspapers. Just nibbling at the news, you might say. And in between chews, he leaves his engine running. Miss Fay Field was the owner of this funny bunny. A cute rabbit with a quaint habit. And what a design for living. For once in their colourful careers, Sir Lawrence and Lady Olivia were among the audience as koalas and kangaroos strutted their stuff at Sydney's Taronga Park Zoo. Anzac Day, and at Canberra, the heart of the nation beat with a proud pulse. The Olivias were welcomed by Prime Minister Ben Chifley, who laid a wreath on the National Memorial. That night, Vivian Lee addressed a servicemen's reunion.
Mr. President, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, ever since the day we first landed at Fremantle, we have been losing our hearts to this wonderful country of yours. It is therefore a particular joy and honor to be amongst you on this great day of Australian history and to pay tribute with your countrymen to your countrymen.
Another visiting film star, Chico Marx, met and entertained patients from a military hospital.
Hello, guys. How are you? Well. Look at this bunch. Look, fellas, how about a little number, a little song? A number that I heard in America. They tell me is very popular here. It's something about a bum walking along the road and he meets some dame named Matilda. All right? No dame? Yeah, they must meet something. All right, now look. Let's start the singing. Let me see. Oh, you can do better than that. Let me hear you here. All right, now go.
Just before you go, Chico, you know I love you, I love you, I love you.
I didn't know you cared.
Goodbye, fellas. Come on, Chico. Goodbye.
It was an historic day at Sydney's Deaf and Dumb Institute. The youngsters had been fascinated by daily reports of their idol, the great Helen Keller, who triumphed over deafness, dumbness and blindness. Today, they're visited by Helen Keller herself, with her companion, guide and interpreter Polly Thompson. As Miss Keller shows affectionate interest in the deaf and dumb children, Miss Thompson communicates to her by finger pressure, or Helen picks up Polly's speech by placing fingers on her lips and larynx. Happily, Helen's visit coincides with the birthday of a pupil. But her mere presence today is a birthday gift to the deaf and sightless everywhere. For here is an inspiring, living example of what hope and determination can do. Helen Keller conquered inconceivable darkness and isolation to become a world figure. Helen's artificially acquired monotone is interpreted by Miss Thompson for those children who have partial or aided hearing.
It makes me proud to see how tirelessly you have overcome obstacles.
It makes me proud to see how you're overcoming difficulties.
I know every step on the road you are traveling.
I know every step of the road you are taking.
And I rejoice at you cheer and determination.
And I rejoice at your cheer and determination.
The obstacles you meet are many.
Because the obstacles you meet are many. Hold fast to the ideal your teachers are planting in your heart.
And whenever go out for life, strangely and adventures.
And when you go out to life's struggles and adventures,
you will raise a banner.
You will raise a banner.
Who follow you.
For the deaf who follow you. Yes.
And on this inspiring note, we come to the end of 1948. A year to remember.